Looks like you got the 235 block cleaned up.
Yeah, we got it all cleaned, checked out. Visually, everything looks good on it.
Well, when you say checked out, we didn't fully check the mains yet.
No, I meant checked out as far as all the bolt holes look good, no cracks, nothing structurally wrong with it that we can see.
So this is the one that came in, supposedly ran for 10 miles after a rebuild. When we tore it down, it had a stuck valve guide, which
right.
In the last video before this one, they should have seen us rebuilding the cylinder head here. But the other thing we found was the front, I think it was the front main bearing mixed a 20 thousandths shell and a 30 thousandths shell.
Right.
Which is not normal.
No, that's not normal, not right, absolutely nothing right about that. I think it was just an error. I'm guessing the bearings were packaged wrong from the manufacturer, and when they assembled the motor, it was an oversight, and no one even knew.
Whether it contributed to the failure with the valve guide seizing or not, there's the potential that maybe it was causing an oil pressure issue if it was 5 thousandths extra clearance, but we don't really think that that's the key factor that caused the failure up top. The other thing, the engine was pretty dirty still. There was quite a bit of grit. Yeah,
there was a lot of stuff left in this motor, and maybe from some of the accessories that got hung on it. I don't know who put this motor together. I don't know if the customer did, if the machine shop did. Not even going to go there. It doesn't matter at this point. It's here now. We're going to make it right.
We're going to go ahead and deck the block here. Once we get that done, we'll check out the cylinders a little more, probably touch them up in the cylinder hone, and we are going to go ahead and torque the caps on and check all of those main bores just to make sure that that wasn't intentional.
Yeah, make sure for some reason that wasn't intentional. Make sure that they measure like they're supposed to. Make sure that they're not supposed to have shims in there. Make sure they're the right caps for the block, because this thing, 65 plus years old, a lot of things could have happened, and we know it's been rebuilt more than once because it's stamped right here on the deck that it was 40 over boron at some point in time, and it's 60 right now. Anyway, we don't really think there's anything wrong with the deck other than it's 65 years old, and we want to make sure there's no problem with the sealing of the head gasket. So we're going to deck this just because we want it perfect.
So yeah, if you haven't seen the teardown video, that's a good one to watch. People really liked that. If you haven't seen the cylinder head rebuild video, I haven't actually edited it yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be a good one to watch. You did all the valve guide work, I cut the seats.
Yeah.
That looks pretty within reason.
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
There might have been a couple thou wiggle in there, but end to end, you're definitely pretty good.
Okay. And that's what I was hoping for. That's what it should be. But
unlike the way the cylinder head
was.
was.
That cylinder head, when we surfaced it did not mount up like I would have expected. The valve cover side is not even parallel to the head gasket surface, and I'm almost thinking that head was made that way.
Could be.
It's because when we did the rest of the machine work, we didn't have any indication that there was a issue from that.
You might have noticed the cleaning guy and I putting in some later nights to try and get these videos out for you all, and that's because we're working extra hard in anticipation of my wife and I welcoming our first baby girl into the world in less than a couple of months here. And with that in mind, I want to take a quick break from the video to talk to you about our sponsor for this video, Policy Genius. If you're like me, you might have never really concerned yourself with life insurance. It's one of those things that we probably should have been taught in school, but we just weren't. Luckily, Policy Genius can help you compare options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Nobody likes to think about the worst case scenarios, but getting life insurance today means that you'll have the peace of mind that if something were to happen to you, the people who depend on you will be protected. Not to mention, the sooner that you buy, the more likely you are to save, as rates typically do get higher as you get older. There's no more excuses, because with just a few clicks, Policy Genius makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers to find your lowest price. Even if you already have an existing life insurance plan through work, it may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, and it may not follow you if you do have to leave your job. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius works for you, not the insurance companies. Their licensed, award-winning agents can help you find the best fit for your needs, and you can trust their guidance since they don't have any incentive to recommend one insurer over another. No wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Save time and money and provide your family with a financial safety net using Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/JimsMachine or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. Thanks again to Policy Genius. Now let's get back into the video.
See when I get cutter close.
You're just slowly running the cutter down. It'll be a CBN cutter right now since this is a cast iron block.
There we are.
We do have PCD cutters for aluminum, as well as a hybrid PCD CBN for bimetal blocks.
Okay, I did that kind of quick, but generally, a piece of paper is 3/1000 of an inch. So let me see how much it takes before we hear it start cutting. Well, I was closer than I thought.
Yeah.
Half thousandths.
Well, you only checked
maybe
one spot. Where did it even touch?
It may have been hitting on a... No, it's touching pretty good there. Over on this side.
Can you turn this on?
Yeah, turn that on.
So you're touching there.
Just right there.
Not touching.
Don't stick your finger in it, but it's right there. Okay, I'm going to zero it. What should we take? 2, 3?
Maybe do a 2 just
Okay.
for fun. We might be here a little longer.
We might be here a little longer, but let's see what 2000 shows us. It's kind of fun sometimes making a light cut because it'll show you where all the problems are. Should we put any color on that?
Yeah, we could, just to make it
Let me
fun
grab
for the
that.
video.
What color do you want? Blue?
Blue's probably easier because you can just spray it.
Well, especially because we have blue.
Well, we have red over there.
Ready?
Sure.
Let's speed this up.
So it's about a 14-inch fly cutter spinning at 630 RPM. We're going to traverse 160 millimeters per minute. The overseas people will like that. Smells good.
I'll put our high-tech cover on here. Try to contain the chips a little bit.
Setting up the new diamond head while we let that run.
Yeah, first time for me attempting to change any of these.
So we got this set up, and ended up kind of being a pain because we actually bought this used, and it was too short, so we had to extend this piece on our machine. This block is going to be definitely pushing the small side of what we can do with this hone head.
Interesting.
Okay, first pass is done here. That didn't sound good.
That was this. You thought I scraped the top of the block.
Huh.
And this would be why we surface blocks even when you think maybe they don't need it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Show us what.
well, if you look here, you can see kind of a pattern in this. That's from 65 years of head gaskets wearing into the surface. It almost looks like the checkerboard pattern like a head gasket would have.
Yeah.
And then we touched across here in some places. Right here we missed where the gasket is worn into the block, but it shined up kind of on the sides here. And then all of a sudden we've got a high spot along the side over here.
Yeah. So at first, when I saw this side, I thought, you know, the difference between us cutting it and whoever cut it last was just tilted slightly. But then you get down here, and it's clearly touching over there.
Yeah.
And almost nothing over here. Huh. And that was 2000s.
That's 2000s. So let's give it 2 more.
Yeah.
And see what it looks like. There we go.
4000s have been removed. Huh. All right. Well, what does over 40 years of experience say?
40 years of experience says, I'm glad we did this, because to look at that, it looked probably fine. But look, we've got a whole corner here that's low. We've got spots here where the gasket has worked and eroded into the deck surface. It was probably getting some coolant under the gasket. You know, here's another one, has ate into the deck surface. Maybe putting a head gasket on there again would have sealed. Maybe it wouldn't. But I know now that when we get done surfacing this, it definitely will seal again. We will not have issues. So let's go 2 more. You know, we could be taking considerably more on each cut, but it's kind of fun to just do a couple at a time here and just see how things progress.
Yeah.
So there's 2 more. Let's see what that's going to look like. And we probably won't get all of this out, because that, you know, rust is just like a cancer. It goes down into the metal. You can never get rid of all of it. But we can get enough of that to where we know it'll seal good again. Okay, let's see what we got this time.
That's starting to look more like it. I mean, you have stuff like this that is never gonna fully...
Well, no, and when you, let me go get the head gasket and show you.
Yeah, that should be within...
Yeah, that'll be inside the head gasket.
There's maybe one spot over there. Overall, looking pretty good.
So when we put the head gasket on this, that's where there's big openings in the head gasket anyway.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff has no effect on it whatsoever.
Okay.
And
There's that one little spot over there, but...
well, this along the edge here and on the corner, that's almost outside where there's anything. It has to be sealed.
I don't know. Should we do just a finish cut?
I was going to say a finish cut and let's call it good. What's that right there? That's kind of a bad spot.
Ooh.
Let's see where that is.
That's pretty deep.
You know what? That's not an issue. We lucked out. If that had been like right over here,
Yeah.
that would have caused us problems.
Alrighty. Well,
So one more for finish.
let's do a finish cut. You gotta slow it down.
Yeah, we could a little bit. How much you want to go down?
It depends how long you want to be here. I like going 70, but that's really.
I don't want to be here that long.
Go 100.
There's 100. And it even still, there was enough chamfer on the top of the cylinders. We won't have to redo anything there either.
That's good.
So,
Okay. So we took 7 total off. Looks as good as it's gonna get to me.
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's as good a surface as we can get out of a old block like this. Maybe not cosmetically perfect, but functionally, I think everything that matters is clean.
Okay.
So
Should we get it off here?
yeah, let's take the block off here. We'll flip it over upside down in the cart here, torque the main caps on, and let's see what the main bores look like.
Okay.
See what we got. I'm not sure which way the main caps go on.
Probably some like very specific thing that the more experienced 235 builders
Well, that's
will-
it. The guys that are more familiar with these engines than we are, I'm going to say just the way that cap fits, I think it should go this way. And there are some 3s stamped on here towards the front side.
Yeah, but there's a 2 on this side and a 2 on that side.
Yeah. And again, just the way it feels in here. I like it this way the best. Because there's nothing to line these up, no dowels, no registers, anything. You just have to put it together and kind of tap it back and forth just a little bit till you get it to line up the way you want. So let's start with, no, I guess we could start with one of these. But I want to put some oil on the bolts here before we get going.
This one here, I pointed out. Yeah, look at the chamfer, how wide it is there.
You need more light on it, or does that show it?
It shows.
Okay.
Compared to right here, that's kind of one of the things I learned on rod caps, figuring them, not which way, but matching rod caps.
Yeah, matching mixed up rod caps.
Is if they don't have any numbers and they're all taken apart and mismatched, you can look at the chamfer and see
Yeah, 'cause
that
if
here
we-
it's thin. But yeah, if
I turn this around, this portion over here that is really wide, that would be over here then,
Yeah.
and obviously would not match. So I know we've got that one right.
I'm gonna go off of, there's a small 3 towards
Okay.
that side of the cap. There's a small 2 towards that side of
Okay.
the cap.
And I don't know what that little nubbin there is for, but a lot of times that's an indicator of front.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that for right now.
And you said by feel that's the way it.
Just flipping it back and forth and feeling the way it lines up, it felt the best this way. So let's get, I'm going to go set up the bore gauge to the sizes. What did I do with that list?
I forgot it's sizes.
Yeah, every single one of them is different. So anyway, I took a picture of the spec out of the book. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 number main.
Okay.
So I'll set up, let's start with number 2. I'll set the bore gauge for that. And as we snug this down, we'll have to kind of check it and maybe take a hammer and just bump the cap a little bit one side or the other to line it up, because there's no crank or bearing in there to line it up at this point. 0 on the gauge is middle of spec. About a half on, well, not even quite a half. Kind of varies depending where you're at. Roughly a half on the tight side.
You said 0 is middle of spec?
0 is middle. Zittle is middle of spec.
And how big is the spec? What's the tolerance?
Oh, 1,000ths.
Okay. So
You're
it's
allowed,
right.
yeah. Going to the side there, I'm a little bit tight. Going this direction, side to side. Again, I'm a little bit tight. So when we put this together, we'll have to see what things feel like. And actually the instructions, or the way these were done, is even if it was a shimmed motor, you put your shims in, you torqued everything down. If the crank turned fine, you went back and took out 2,000ths shim on one side at a time until the crank started getting tight. Then you would add 2,000ths on one side back in. Okay. And stop that just for a second. Let me go over and get the book. Okay, right here in the Clevite bearing book, main bearings under normal conditions should be assembled with a 4,000 shim pack, not to extend between parting line surface. Remove shims to give slight drag, then add 1 2,000th shim to one side. And that gives you the proper clearance. So it's.
But this is not a shimmed motor, we decided.
No, I don't think this is a shimmed motor. It didn't have shims in it when it came in here, and we'll have to check the other mains here, but after checking this one, I don't think that should have any shims in it.
Yeah.
So we'll put the crank in, see what it feels like. If it was a little tight, we could add shim to one side rather than trying to get this thing line bored, because these are a problem, because every main is a different size. You can't use a normal hone through there. It literally has to be bored, and each one bored a different size. So with that said, let's go ahead and try the next cap here. I'm going to snug it down just a little bit to begin with. Let's go about 25 pounds on it. Since there's nothing to line this cap up, okay, I'm going to start at 25 pounds, and if the cap seems to be shifted, I can bump it with the, tap it a little bit, hammer, and get it lined up. Vertically, I'm a couple thousandths loose, which is to be expected because it's not torqued yet. But I'm unsure if the cap is lined up correctly side to side. So I'm going to come over this direction here, and I'm going to take a reading. And it looks like I'm, what, 1.5 loose. Now come around on the other side of me. And I'm going to read here. And I'm about 0. So that's telling me it's tighter in this direction. So I need to bump the cap that way just a little bit. Yeah, I might be already too tight. So let me loosen this just a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Yeah, I probably went too much because I'm 1.5 loose. Maybe not. 1 loose. Take it back just a little bit. Now let's torque it a little bit tighter again. Okay, I'm about 1,000ths loose. How am I there? You can probably see it better than me.
Just 1 thou, about.
Okay, let's torque it to spec, which is 100 to 110 pounds. Let me over torque it. Over torque this one. You're going to have to explain to our viewers about that. Okay, look at there. We're about 0.5 thousandths.
I think we should let the comments explain that one.
Okay. Yeah, we're about half thousandths tight, or half thousandths loose, yeah. And we're fine that way. We're fine that way, aren't we?
Yeah. So we're right on loose side of
Yeah.
spec, right on tight side of spec for this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I think we're within reason. It's nothing that concerns me. These whole things were pretty crude, you know, considering these old guys corrected all this with shims when they needed to.
Yeah.
Back when these were new and the guys that were rebuilding these, those were true machinists because you had to know how to set up the bearings and get your clearance right. It wasn't a deal where you just throw a set of bearings in it and away you go. You had to work with it. Let's do the front cap next, since it's the same torque as the one we just got done doing.
And it's the question cap.
It's a what?
It's the
Oh
cap
yeah,
we have
it's the
the
one
whole
of questions about. And I don't know if we've said this, but the front three caps here have 9/16 diameter bolts, and the rear main is a 4-bolt main, but it only uses 1/2-inch diameter bolts. So they're a different torque than the other three here. And again, there's nothing to line this up, so you can feel it there. And also have to make sure it's lined up even on the front here.
You're still not.
Yeah, that one doesn't feel quite right. Tap that yourself a little bit, work with that, see if you can get it so it feels a little bit better while I set up the gauge.
Okay, it will not.
Snug it down and we'll see what it measures like. Okay, when I go sideways that way, we're about +1. I go this way, we're -1. So it needs to come this way.
It doesn't want
It doesn't want to go that way. You know, that's where these bolts torque down. It has kind of rolled a little bit of metal over there. It may be enough there that's holding it, keeping it from going. Okay, well, just for fun, let's torque it down and measure it.
You think that's the right cap?
Well, that's what I'm beginning to wonder. Have we got block with the wrong cap on it?
Glad we did the head.
We'll figure out how to make it work. Well, we're right on the money up and down. I say we're right on the money, right in the middle of the spec, in the vertical direction. That's our important direction. So what are we there?
About 3 tight.
Okay, come over this way. We're about on the money there. So something is not quite right with that cap. Maybe that's why, maybe they did purposely put that other bearing in there. We'll never know. Only thing I know is we have to deal with what we've got right now.
Vertical, it's on the money.
Yeah.
So what gives?
Well, it could be a situation where the bolt holes in this cap are a little bit tight compared to the bolt itself.
Gonna have to.
Have I got enough oomph to break loose that much torque? Yeah.
What was I telling you earlier today about you don't have to use the excuse of being a wimp anymore
Yeah,
because you can qualify as a senior citizen?
I told somebody I couldn't lift something because I was just a wimp. And Nicholas, thanks a lot, pointed out right away that I'm a senior citizen. So I could use that for an excuse. It just almost feels like the cap is a little bit narrow for the block. But see, that's the other thing. Look at that bolt is tight in there. That one's not. Let's, I think it's rolled the metal over on the top just a little bit. Let me take a reamer and go in there and
Ream that a little
try to take that out just a little bit. I've got a reamer here that's actually a little bit loose on the bottom side of that, but when it gets up to the top, it's tight because the metal is rolled over.
Caps have been on and off too
Yeah.
many times.
Not a lot, but a little bit there.
Still not right.
Yeah, it's still, I can still feel it. Okay, we're looking good that direction. You roll over your way. Yeah, we're still tight that direction. And when I come over here, I'm still just a little loose. Well, I'm not going to do it right now, but I think if we go through those with a ream and open those bolt holes up just a little bit so that the cap can move, I think we can make it work.
Okay.
So let's move on and check that back one.
But it does make you wonder if that almost is not the right cap or something.
Yeah,
But up and down it fits.
yeah, up and down it fits really nice. But sideways there, it's a little questionable. This one has dowels. I'm going to open those bolt holes up, see if I can make that fit before we get ready to assemble it. I think I can get it closer, and it may end up being a deal that we have to kind of hand fit it. Oh, I was just thinking about this front cap. The good thing here is our vertical dimension is correct.
Yep.
And it's not that the cap is way too wide or way too narrow, it's just not aligned side to side. So I have confidence that if we open these bolt holes up just a little bit, maybe just put it on the pin hone over there and I can hone those bolt holes out just a little bit. I have confidence I can get that cap to where it will at least have equal clearance on both sides. And again, our vertical is what we're concerned about.
It makes you wonder if it was just a mistake or if they put the right size bearings in and it was misaligned like that.
Misaligned, and it was too tight with the 30 and 30.
But instead of measuring and fixing it right, they were like, oh, let's try a 20, and they
put a 20 in and everything worked good, or it felt good. I won't say worked good, it felt good. The crank turned.
The crank went from not turning to turning.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
And in some shops, that's, hey, let's go for it. I don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea. All we can do is...
Wish we knew, but...
Yeah, wish we knew, but all we can do here is make speculation. Again, 0 is the middle of spec. We can go a half thousandths either side of that. I think we're real good there.
On the rear main.
Yeah. And if we go side to side, what do you see there? Oops, I got to hold that up, give it a little.
I don't know, tenths.
Yeah, tenths from being on. We go the other direction here. And
Maybe a half.
yeah.
But again, probably misalignment
Right.
more than anything.
So this block does not require shims. With the exception of that front main, everything measures well within spec, especially this type of engine and the age of this engine. So let's go ahead and put it in the hone. Let's get our cylinders finished. And after we're done honing the cylinders, and at the point where I'm putting in the cam bearings, or you're putting in the cam bearings, whoever ends up doing that, let's hone. We'll go over on the pin hone and we'll hone those holes out just a little bit and check this again before we assemble it. But I'm confident we can make it work with a set of 30 under bearings.
So these are 180 grit diamonds right now, which should be pretty coarse. One thing that's funny on this is somebody almost screwed that cylinder up big time.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, looking at that, they started boring and they were not centered. So that tells me most likely at some point in time this was bored with a maybe like an old Van Norman boring block or boring bar, which were very, very common. That's what we started out with. they mount on the deck surface of the block, and it was not uncommon to have something happen, not get it centered right or bolted down right, and you start boring and realize it's off center. So they started out just a little bit there off center, but they got it stopped in time before it made any permanent damage. Just a cosmetic thing there.
Okay.
And no one else would even know what that was if they had not done that themselves.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so we've set the block up, mounted off the pan rails here, bar through the mains. Mains are still torqued on the block, bolted down solid in the machine. So we got to measure our cylinder length. What is that, 7 1/4? So there's a gauge up in here where we set the stroke length. I think there's 7 1/4. You check for very top of stroke, which I'm at. And then they are supposed to overstroke 5/8 of an inch. So I've got a piece of metal here that is real close to 5/8. Or is that right?
Yeah, 5/8.
Yeah, 5/8, okay.
With these stones.
With these stones, okay.
So you know that this is not quite 5/8.
Yeah,
so.
it's a little shy of 5/8, so I'm gonna fudge just a little bit above right there.
Okay. There's nothing in the bottom because it'll overstroke out the bottom 5/8 of an inch too. We already checked.
There's nothing. There's no webs or anything in this like there is V8 block.
Get the spreadsheet out.
Yeah, get your sheet out there and let's see what we need to do on spindle speed and stroke length and stroke speed.
So our stroke is 725.
Yeah, our bore diameter is 3.622.
Stone length, overstroke. Is it on 57 and 125 right now? 57
Yes.
stroke rate and 125? Okay,
Yes.
that'll give a 43-degree crosshatch angle.
Okay.
Let's see how it looks.
Okay, so we do have this belt set on 125 spindle speed, and this belt here, 57 strokes per minute.
Okay, I'm just going to comment on the torque plate thing, because I know people are going to question this. First off, if anybody can find where you can buy a torque plate for a 1956 235 that's not custom, let me know. Put it in the comments. Because nobody makes one. That's just all there is to it is this type of engine. It's not going to make a big deal.
Well, that's it. When you don't have any more horsepower than this had when it was brand new, what little percent of a gain you might see, what are you going to go from 100 horsepower to 100.5 horsepower?
Yeah, and you're not. There's only like 3 bolt holes that are even close to the cylinders, so I would imagine the distortion is honestly not significant anyway. Where you see is like your 400 small block Chevy, where it's right. I mean, there's no material between where the bolt hole is and the cylinder.
The threads are literally in the side of the cylinder wall.
Yeah, and that's one that you always use a torque plate.
Yeah.
You
We've
don't do
always
one
used
without a
torque plates
plate.
on them. Yeah.
So that's just a little tidbit of my opinion there. Just checking to make sure I don't hit anything. Look, it is going to fill it up. It does fill it up.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's okay. That'll wash it good. And what do you see?
It's on. It looks pretty straight. Need some light. The stone's touched everywhere. For the most part, there's maybe a little bit of discoloration right up there, but obviously, really not any wear
No.
in the cylinders.
No, there's no wear, and actually looks like whoever honed that the last time made a pretty straight cylinder.
We did already check all of the cylinders with the bore gauge. Seemed like we were between half to 1,000th over the nominal 60 thousandths oversized, so we don't want to open it up a ton, but we just want to make sure that they're nice and straight and see if we can get a good surface finish on them for our new piston rings. Solid 1+.
Yeah. I'm guessing by the time you get done here with where that block was when we started and what you're going to have to take out to get a good crosshatch in there, we're probably going to be probably a minimum of 1, if not 1.5 or a little bit better additional clearance from minimum, and that'll be fine.
This cylinder that we haven't touched yet, it's easily one extra already.
Yeah.
So the one I still haven't really taken anything to speak of.
Yeah, and it's going to be pretty hard to get a crosshatch in there without opening it up 1/2 to 1. I'd like to see you get rid of all this dark.
Yeah.
Even if that means it's a little bit on the loose side.
One. Okay. I think it's hard to tell there. Kind of smudged it, but everything looks good all the way around here. I think that's a good spot to leave it with our rough stones there. And just for reference on our bore size, I don't know if that gauge may or may not be in focus, but we're going to end up pretty close to 1.5 loose from nominal minimum spec. Pretty straight too. They're tighter at the bottom from the start, so it's always kind of hard to straighten that out.
Straighten it out without removing a lot of material.
Yeah, exactly. You can only work with what you got, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, should I just go through?
I'd just go through and make them, whatever you did there, make them all look just like that.
Okay. Well, I ran this until it stopped. Theoretically, I should be able
You
to
should be able to do
the
that
same
again.
thing.
I was just afraid no more than you're going, sometimes it stops right before the click or right after.
But it never really took more than... It never took an excessive amount when
Yeah.
it did that. Check it and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see a little bit of dark at the top.
Yeah, I can see from here where the piston ran anyway. It's hard when you have something new. It takes a little while to gain trust in your machine.
Yeah. Tell them about the hose on the pump on this thing.
So I've had this machine for 30 years, and from day one, it has never flowed the amount of oil for coolant here that I thought it should. You know, I always thought it was a filters plugged or something. You change the filters, didn't make any difference. But yet, I mean, it was enough. It worked fine. So in the course of changing this thing over for the diamonds and changing over the different oil, I'm in the back of this machine changing the filters, and I look up in there, and lo and behold, the hose that comes from the pump up to the filters has got a big old huge kink in it. It's been that way all these years. So we changed out that hose, and man, it's amazing how much more oil flows through this thing.
Now the load meter, when a cylinder's nice and straight, this needle runs pretty dang true. And the block we were doing, the first block we did with this head, that needle did not freaking budge.
No.
It was
It almost
than
looked
I've
like
ever
it was
seen.
broke.
Yeah, we were like, okay, it's stuck. On this, they're not quite as straight, and we don't have enough room to get them as straight. But if we could take 2 or 3 thou out of this, I think it'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But kind of watch as we start compared to as it gets closer to finished, you'll notice it. Oops. Are we already there?
Might be.
I think I just pushed out too much pressure to start with.
I've always been told that if you can keep that needle under 10 on that load meter, they always figured your cylinder was pretty straight. And with these diamond stones, it's very easy to keep it there.
And the 8-stone head on top.
Yeah, and I don't mean under 10 on the scale, I mean a range of movement of 10.
Yeah. What about 10 over clearance?
10 over clearance?
Yeah.
Is that what we need? Is that what we've got?
10
Better not.
tenths.
10 tenths, that sounds fine.
This cylinder actually is pretty dang straight, though. Except right there at the top, it gets pretty loose.
Yeah, well, that's what I noticed. Every one of them was loose at the top.
So we're between 1 and 1.5.
I think it looks fine. Do that.
Doesn't matter. I just can't believe how effortlessly straight this makes them.
Yeah. You're not fighting that fine line between too much pressure that makes the cylinder go all wonky and not enough pressure glazing the stones over.
Yeah.
And maybe if you did the same block all day long, all week long, you'd figure out just exactly which stone grit and hardness grade made it work. But we never do two of the same twice.
Yeah, you run it and let it, I'm going to call it spark out, but run until it stops according to the dial here twice. They're all exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay, number one.
You got your little hook.
Do I need my little hook?
Yeah.
I don't think I do. So these are 600 grit CBN for 4, 8. That one, but it's not actually number 3. 65, 18, and 54 on the RK. So we could maybe go 2 more strokes and see what it does. I almost think we do that. 16 RPK. We could go a little bit more, but I don't know that we need to. 67, it looked like our RVK didn't change a whole lot, and our RK is 45. I think that's probably good.
Okay.
So I'm going to do 2 more on that cylinder, and then I'm going to do the rest.
Okay.
I'm going to do like 7/8
Yeah.
on the rest. So on the diamonds, I'm kind of using the, I don't know, what do you call it? It's the scale up here to, in the auto stop to stop it at the same point of feeding out the stones, and that works pretty good to get them all the exact same size. Now that we have the CBNs in, we're just doing our plateau, and we're actually only removing, maybe, if I look here, like we're really not removing any material at all to speak of. So rather than using the scale on here, I'm just counting how many strokes, and then we kind of checked. And if you want to get a little bit, lower peak numbers, you can go more strokes. If you want less peak, you can go less strokes. But I think we kind of figured out here that 7 strokes is probably going to be our ticket. So I'm going to do 2 on the 3rd cylinder over here, but the rest of them, they're getting 7. So I'll just turn it up until I feel pressure and kind of can hear it, and count 7 strokes, and it'll be done. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this cylinder, I still need to do 2 more because we started with 5 on it. Might have been 3. I won't tell. It's not like thousands of people will see this. I accidentally might have had a little more pressure on that one, so we'll see what that does to the numbers. With the diamonds and the CBN in this 8-stone head, I think it just takes a lot of the variability out of it, but with this machine, it's still going to take finesse.
Right.
Just not as much finesse.
Yeah. They have a nice feel.
Can you feel the peaks and valleys?
Ow! Yes.
Shut the hell up.
Isn't that funny the way that oil?
It's like soapy.
Yeah.
I like it though. I could wash my hands in it. I'm gonna say we are pretty freaking straight, and anywhere between, we'll call it 1 to 1.5, but it's really more like 1.2 to 1.5.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Across all of them. I mean,
That's good. Okay, I have got this customer's Invoice open.
Cylinder 1, RVK,
Yeah.
68.25. RK is 37.97.
And RPK.
11.70.
RVK.
RVK, 65.70.
RK.
43.0.
And RPK.
12.04. I can just see it in your head. How did I do this for 41 years? Do you know how many 235 Chevys I sent out of here?
Actually, not that many. They were pretty much gone.
Yeah. Already?
So they were already gone for the most part. And I remember doing quite a few heads early on for them. And then it turned into the deal. The last few years has been restoration stuff, just like this is.
Yeah.
RVK.
52.7.
RK.
37.36.
And RPK.
13.03.
RVK.
67.85.
RK.
45.88.
And RPK.
15.06.
Okay, RVK.
77.84.
And RK.
43.97.
And RPK.
13.59. So that one has a little more valley for whatever reason. RVK 54.61.
RK.
39.50.
RPK.
12.43. Well, that I think looks a lot better than when it came in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, we've definitely made some improvements. So when it came in, it had gone 10 miles farther than this one has.
That's true. But I think I'm impressed with the new diamond head. I mean, these are all consistent size, straight up and down. Our surface finish numbers, I think we're still going to have to play with the diamonds and pressures and just get some more experience with it, but I'm happy with where this came out. I guess in the next video we'll go over kind of that main cap and maybe doing the rods and get this thing put together so it can get back out on the road. Sound like a plan?
It's a good plan with me.
Alrighty. Thanks for watching.